So the first edition of the Black Star Line Festival took place in Accra this January, and lots of amazing response so far. Is it going to be an annual thing? How is it going to evolve over the period? I have with me on Zoom Mike Abrantie, who has a vital role to play in terms of putting together this show. We saw him on stage also. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? How are you?
Doing well also. So you've left already?
Yes, I actually just got back to the States yesterday. So, you know, I'm still riding on a high right now. We're still going through the emotions.
Talking about the high, it was quite an eventful festival you guys put together. First of all, how did it start? Because I remember hearing on stage, I think it was Vic Mensa who was saying that he was at Labadi Beach and they mentioned you and a group of others when you decided to really pull through with this concept. So how did it really start?
Yeah, it actually came together very organically. You know, a few of us had been chatting about doing something on this scale, but, you know, thematically, we wanted to understand from a mission standpoint what we were trying to achieve. And so Vic and I, a friend of mine, Coke Motivation, Dreamer, we were having conversations about doing a festival, about doing a music festival and what that would look like, but more so the importance of why it needed to happen. And, you know, as the days went on, Chance came to join in Ghana and organically just entered into the conversation with excitement, you know, of, all right, we can do this, you know, this is something that we can accomplish and, you know, how it's going to look. And so for us, it came from a place of seeing that fans were not getting the opportunity to see artists that they've been supporting for years, you know, live, you know, in their face on the continent. And there's a huge pain point there around artists not being privy or not being exposed to the continent as a touring destination, especially early on in their career. And so that was essentially why, you know, the inception of everything started was how do we fix that issue? You know, how do we make it a thing to come and tour and to come and perform in Africa and certain parts of Africa that have huge audiences that have been subscribing to the music for decades, if not, you know, more than that.
Great. And before the finale, which was the concert, we saw lots of different activities throughout the week. What motivated these sort of thematic activities? How did it play out, being in there and seeing how planning it and seeing it roll out? How would you put all that together?
You know, we've been calling them ancillary events and events that were in support of the ultimate goal, which was to spark a Pan-Africanist kind of tone in the people that we wanted to come back home. And so putting together the week of events was heavily considerate to that. And so having people like Deshaun Jackson come and skate at Surf Ghana and, you know, doing the Revolt partnership to do the summit, the Pan-African Summit in partnership with Revolt, that was a heavy lift, but that was also something that we felt would add to the conversation and a space in which, instead of it just being music-led, we had an opportunity to talk about business and talk about art and talk about tech and what that means for Africa, what that means for people coming back home, and how they can be involved in reshaping, you know, what Ghana in particular looks like for the next 10 years. And, you know, conversations with Kudi and Chike and Kukwe Shan to bridge that gap between film here and film abroad, as well as poetry with JIV and Aja Monet and Nana Asasi and, you know, to name a few, having Samir Nkrumah, you know, as an opening keynote speaker. Those things were important to us as Ghanaians as well. You know, majority of us who came together to put this thing together were Ghanaian as well. And so a nod and paying homage to the motherland and to our home and to where you know, we're bred, for us was first and foremost, you know, and Dave Chappelle coming and speaking at the University of Ghana was also a cherry on top. You know, he's very adamant in wanting to play his role as well and wanting to be someone who is not coming in and dictating, but someone who's coming in and listening to what can we do on both ends of the spectrum to bridge this gap and to start to mend these relations and to start to forge new relations and new areas of opportunity and enterprise, etc. So I think, you know, the week of events was, I would call it a conversation leading into a climatic event. And so all of these little events that we did leading up to were a part of the big event. You know, they were in support of, they were the legs, if you will.
Then came the big event. The place was filled. In fact, more people wanted to get in if you were coming in from outside. Was it what you guys expected? The atmosphere, the response, was it what you guys expected? You be on stage, looking down to the crowd and watching them reaction-wise, how were you feeling?
I think it exceeded the expectation, if I'm being honest. You know, like personally, I entered through the audience entrance because I wanted to have the fan experience, because what we developed, you know, in theory, this was our first time to see it actually in practice. And, you know, shouts to Davis Lacko on a lot of the development on what the entry process looked like. And so I personally walked from the exit, the street side, you know, to through Black Star Square and just, you know, getting to see what the fan experience was. It exceeded my expectations. I enjoyed, you know, from just a regular person standpoint, that experience and walking through, and it just felt like a crusade, if you will, walking around the square and then coming through the entry gates. And then every step of the way just felt very, you know, very intentional. And so I think most fans would agree that the process was very seamless. And it just felt, you know, like, you know, you were welcomed into the space rather than you were, you know, moved in with a group of people or pushed in and, you know, rah-rah and those kind of things that you have at the gates. But from the festival concert standpoint, I think it exceeded expectations. You know, getting to personally bring out NSG and some other friends from Chicago, you know, Joey Perp and Kami. These moments, I don't feel like you could write them. You know, these are very organic moments that the festival gave stage to, and the performances that were given by these artists that came, some of them for the first time to Ghana. They gave up, in a lot of sense, they gave it their all. You know, T-Pain rocked out with the performance that I personally never seen from him. And Erica gave us a very sultry, very soulful, intimate kind of performance that allowed fans to understand that, you know, outside of the bam bam, outside of the rah rah that happens normally in Accra, you know, back then we had Ghana Rocks and we had December to Remember and then kind of things. This just felt different. You know, this was a bit soulful. This, you know, Jeremiah, and I think a lot of fans agree that, you know, Jeremiah became a fan favorite. Toby, you know, put on a show that I don't think the Ghanaian audience is used to sitting through, more of a theatrical concert experience. But now we have the opportunity to kind of forge some new cultural moments and some new cultural expectations that I think, you know, the audiences would appreciate, you know, moving forward.
Fantastic. And speaking as an audience, I loved it, but I was tired because sometimes, apart from standing for a very long time, you had to wait in between performances, and then I didn't get to see Erykah Badu and Chance because I was tired. I had to go home. So what as organizers, are you looking at doing to improve the process so that it's a fun sort of experience for everybody throughout, and you get to experience everybody you really want to see on the night?
Yeah, I think, you know, as the first time doing it, you know, there's going to be some things that you look back and say, okay, we can do this different. You know, we can add areas of improvement in these different places. But Ghana time there is unbeatable because we say we're going to start at one time. But if you don't have the audience there, it is a little disrespectful to have an artist go perform for what may be half of the expected amount that they want to really put a show on for. So I think delays is what adds to those kind of, you know, longer drawn out shows, as we see with most of the festivals that happen in Ghana. they usually go to the wee hours of the morning. I hope that we can, as a concert goer, start to arrive at things when doors actually open. But I think those are things that, logistically you can start to hammer away out by doing things like adding second stage and things like that, so that if I want to see an artist, I can kind of schedule it out a bit and say, okay, I'll go to stage B and see him at this time while these other artists performing at stage A. Those things alleviate, they cause for a greater logistical lift, but they do alleviate that, where I can still see an artist that I wanted to see, the only artist I came to see, I still might get a chance to see him before I get too tired.
Great. And I mean, putting up a show like this, a festival like this, obviously that doesn't come cheap. And we haven't seen out there advertise sort of sponsors on board. Are there key people who made this possible that you would want to give some sort of special recognition to, that perhaps the audience will not know?
It was a very internal funded situation, and so we did. Luckily for us, being in our first year, we didn't have any major sponsors that we had to answer to, which gave us autonomy to do a lot of things. Shout to Chance as well for coming in with such vim and such tenacity and saying, look, this is how we should do it. And I think it's a nod to the spirit of ownership, that we don't have any huge sponsors that we need to answer to, or we need to do anything. So we were able to have full autonomy to run it how we wanted to run it. But I will say, what we did do was partner with a lot of local new businesses as far as the friends and family area, because we didn't do like a VIP. We wanted people to feel, everyone to feel on the same level, on the same plane. There's a togetherness and freedom element to the show, but we did have an area that was called Friends and Family, and for that area we did have all Black-owned spirit companies and Ghanaians at that, providing the spirits and the refreshments. And so there are companies like Duo Vodka, that's Chicago-based, but Ghanaians who started, John Basil Tequila, Rain Rum, which is made in Ghana, Afro, friends of the family, Afro Spirits. And so they provided, drinks and Oliver Twist as far as the friends and family goes. But outside of that, we didn't have any big outside entities to come in, and we're very proud about that.
Great. So what are some of the things you are doing out there individually that we should look out for also?
I need to also shout out Event Noir. Event Noir is a Black-owned ticketing platform that we actually enlisted to do some of our week of events as far as RSVPs and ticketing. Very seamless, and competitors to Eventbrite and the likes. And so I think we'll see them in the next coming years. All of these people are like startup. The spirit of entrepreneurship for us is important when it comes to Pan-Africanism, when it comes to repatriating Africa. And so we try to support these young companies that are trying to get it out of the mud. As far as me personally, I'm a behind the scenes guy a lot of times. So this is definitely, new for me to even be speaking with you. So I appreciate you. But I'm a filmmaker, by profession. That is what I do. I'm a writer, director, but I'm also the head of Out the Box Creative Group, which is a boutique production and development company. So we do a lot of behind the scenes movement when it comes to getting people's projects picked up for distribution, and developing certain talents from producers to directors, etc. That's kind of the role we play. So we operate in Chicago, LA, and Ghana. And so a couple of things you can look for from that side is we're going to be screening a short film this year that we filmed in Ghana, and that film is, the purpose of that film is to add to a larger conversation around classism in our country. It's called Hustle, and I had collaborative effort from Kukwai Shan, Kumi, and a few other people, Duimo Molu, Kofi Sapong. And so really giving breath to the independent film ecosystem in Ghana. And, a goal of mine is to elevate the independent film ecosystem in Ghana to a place where we can compete on a world stage in a larger scale, and be in those conversations at Tribeca and at Sundance and some of these places. And we've begun, very slowly, we've begun to inch towards that, but there's a lot of work to do. And so that screening event will happen. Outside of that, I'm an art enthusiast. And so outside of, film being a medium of focus for me, art is also a vehicle of expression. And so I work with different artists very closely, like Kwekwo Wusu, who's also based in Ghana, who we actually collaborated with for the poster for that film. And so merging the elements of mediums to me is important when it comes to cinema as a medium, when it comes to fine art and oil and sculpture and things like that as a medium as well. It's all storytelling. And so that's a big part of what my personal goal and my personal mission is. Outside of being an entrepreneur and touching a few different things, that is a big thing for me. In short, I don't want to overload you, because I'm
fantastic.
definitely.
And I mean, we've seen the maiden edition of Black Star Line Festival. What should we look forward to? Because now people are anticipating it to come. I think there's a strong relationship between Chicago, Ghana this time. How is it going to be like in the coming years also? Any scoop for us?
The relationship between Chicago and Ghana is one that I don't think we talk about enough. A lot of the early US to Ghana relations, a lot of the establishment there started in Chicago with the organization of things like the Ghana National Council, which was essentially a chieftaincy council of different ethnic groups coming together, Kwauwe, Kwapamai, Achimfor, all these different groups coming together to unionize and create systems where we can have support outside of Ghana, with acknowledgement from Ghana itself. And, places like New York and Toronto follow suit. But we have a huge Ghanaian audience here in Chicago. And I think, I just would be remiss if I didn't touch on that. But so that relationship is there. And I think moving forward for the festival, it's too early to make any official announcements as far as, location and what's happening next. But just know that, as the first event took place in Ghana, it went to beyond, it exceeded everything that we thought. We're doing 52,000 people in a space. We saw it as something that could happen, but we didn't know it would happen, and so, everyone is very elated about it. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't also give a nod to some of the other founder members and people that helped, structuralize everything. Denisha Kulor, Duimo Molu, Self Motivation, outside of, our brothers Vic and Chance. And, there were some key players and a lot of relationships that we leveraged, to get the support of Ghana in general, and nods to the Office of Diaspora Affairs for being very helpful in different areas, and always lending a hand, or offering to lend a hand wherever they could. And so, I think this has been a labor of love, but it has been very familiar. It's been very family oriented, and every step of the way has been very communal. And I love that. I can say that my home country was the destination for the first event that we did and shattered records and made history, but also that my home country is appreciative, and I'm also appreciative, to Ghana for everything that she has done. And this is just the beginning. I think the sky's the limit. We did a program called Starline Youth Program, in which we brought 8 kids from Chicago, and we're doing it again. And so we're gonna continue to do these bridge programs where we have youth coming from the States. We have Ghanaians youth coming also to the States to have a bit of an exchange and see that, the sky is not the limit, and you can broaden your horizons as far as what areas and industries you want to work in. You have peers that are doing it all over the world, and so the more we begin to cross-nationalize our thinking and see things as possible versus roadblocked and red taped off, then we can begin to have conversations that are fruitful when it comes to business and generational wealth.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been amazing speaking with you. And we will keep an eye out on what you'll be doing, as well as what the festival leads us to. And thank you very much once again.
Ameyaw, thank you as well. I think it's an honor to talk to you. You know, you do a lot of the work. I've been following you along for some years now. And so, you know, I appreciate your journalistic approach to making sure that, you know, you're covering people and subjects in its most authentic way. So thank you again. And thank you from the Black Star Line Festival as a team. We love you and appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. All right, so make sure you stick and stay for more exciting content on Ameyaw TV. Bye-bye.